Welcome to the third installment of OTel in a minute or so. Short bites of open telemetry you can use. Today we're going to take a look at something called tail sampling, which is a type of sampling of our telemetry, typically on our distributed traces. So why sample telemetry at all? In short, because it's not cost effective to send all of those traces to be ingested into our observability vendor. And furthermore, it creates a lot of potential noise that our engineering and dev teams shouldn't have to deal with and wade through. There are different types of sampling that can be done. Many current vendors, for example, support head or probabilistic sampling, where a decision about whether to keep a trace is made up front and likely at random. This can lead to poor outcomes, though. And we've heard many engineering and dev teams complain that when they have an issue in production, such as high latency or errors occurring, they turn to their observability vendor only to find that those traces have been thrown away. Tail sampling, on the other hand, waits until the entire trace is completed, or after some reasonable time, to make a decision of whether to sample that trace or not. This way, we can look at the complete properties of the trace and its associated spans before making a decision whether to sample it and send it on to our observability vendor. Now, for example, we can ensure we sample all the traces that have high latency or that have errors in them. We can focus our engineering and dev teams on the key signals of interest and reduce cost. With a sufficient sample of good behavior, and by sampling for these outliers, we can bring better outcomes to our observability and tracing efforts, as shown visually in this OpenTelemetry blog post picture. The OTel collector has support for the tail sampling processor, where this can be configured. Let's take a look at our OTel collector configuration. We've got our two key policies configured here, one to sample traces with high latency and one to sample traces with errors. We've also configured our favorite tap processor from episode 1 on our traces pipeline, so we can look at the telemetry before and after going through the tail sampling processor. We run this configuration in our collector and have it receive telemetry from OTelGen. And using some JQ magic, we can compute the span latency before and after the processor, the left and right of the screen respectively. We're looking at individual spans here and their latencies, and the spans with latency less than 200 milliseconds do not get sampled or come out of the pipeline. Since if an individual span in our trace is 200 milliseconds, the entire trace must be at least 200 milliseconds. We can do a similar verification if we just focus our collector configuration on errors. In this case, the status is not being set in our spans, and since none of these contain an error, none of them get sampled and come out of the traces pipeline. Well, that's today's OTel in a minute or so, where we've seen that the OTel collector can be a powerful tool for both reducing costs and increasing insights from our traces through tail sampling. See the blog on our website for more details and step-by-step instructions. Until next time,